1-2-1-2, I go by the name of DJ What, and you're now listening to the original Jeek Podcast. Let's go!
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut. Come on, cut for me.
Oh yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
Fresh.
Yeah, making me itch.
What up, Jeeks? This is the original Jeek, your boy, your host, Rockinmrmagic, and this is another episode of the original Jeek Podcast. That's right. So, today we are going to be talking about primary topic, She-Hulk, episode 3, recap and review. But to start this episode, since it's just me, no unique DNA, no guest today, but I hope you really enjoyed the previous two reviews on episodes 1 and 2 of She-Hulk, and I hope you enjoyed the last episode with our guest from Culture Jacked podcast, Dustin Poindexter. Had a great time with him. I really hope you enjoyed that show, and if you did, please, one, give him and his show a follow, and also give a rating and review of that episode on your podcasting app of choice. Apple Podcasts and Podchaser kind of preferred. Those help us be discovered a little bit more than others. But any review that you leave on any app of choice, we appreciate and thank you for. So if you enjoyed that episode, didn't enjoy it, if you've got any feedback for that episode, please leave it. And again, our thanks to you for listening and reviewing. So before we go into episode 3 here, I want to talk about some recent news, but someone I had to mention and give a shout out because I am so grateful and appreciative that I got to see this athlete perform and got to watch this athlete's entire career. And that is the GOAT of women's tennis, the one, the only, the enigmatic, the excellent, the beautiful, the amazing, the dominant Serena Williams. Officially had her final matches in this U.S. Open and even scored an upset over the number 2 ranked player in the world prior to losing and ending her storybook career. Just what an amazing career, from being a teenager turned pro to all the years of Olympic success and Open success and surpassing Venus, her older sister, and establishing herself as not only one of the top women's athletes in the world, but a top athlete in the world, period. Male, female, didn't matter. Top 5 athlete in the world at her peak. We're talking, at peak, we're talking like that LeBron James, that Lionel Messi, upper echelon of just athletes, top athletes in the world, completely dominating their games, their sports, showing that no one at their peak is on their level. A pure joy to watching her endure triumph, watching her achieve triumph, watching her endure hardships, watching her deal with anti-blackness, watching her deal with people hating on her apparel, her gear, her playing style, just her overall appearance, beyond racially, people disrespecting her physical build, saying she looks too manly and her butt's too big and she's too thick, she needs to be skinnier, and all this, anti-bigger body stigma that they tried to throw on her that was fake, that was not real. It's false. It's and it was trash for them to try to disparage Serena that way. But she overcame with grace, with beauty, and with dominance. And in most people, I would say, they would say she's the GOAT. You may want to, you can try to argue for Steffi Graf, you can try to argue for Martina Navratilova, but I believe they just fall below the greatness of Serena Williams. So I just want to say on behalf of the original Jeek Podcast and myself, Unique DNA, thank you, Serena, for gracing us with your ability, with your passion, with your skill and talent, the evidence, the fruits of your dedication, your hard work. That's a result of not just you, but also your family who push you, your father, your sister, your sisters, mother, and everyone helping drive you to greatness through all these many, many years of tennis excellence. Thank you, Serena Williams. And to you listeners, I would like to know if Serena is your GOAT of women's tennis. And if she's not, I'm wondering, why. The question can be answered for those who listen to this show via Spotify. So on Spotify, there will be a question that says, is Serena Williams your GOAT? And I would love to see what your answers or responses are. If you don't listen to us on Spotify, if you can answer the question in the comment section on any Facebook post or reply via Twitter or comment via IG, I would love to see what you think as well. All right, so we are going to move on here to the recap and review of She-Hulk Attorney at Law episode Trey Deuce. So, not Trey Deuce, just Trey. All right, so I'm not going to give the spoiler warning yet. So, before I go into any spoilers, I give this episode a 5.2 out of 6 rating. It's not a perfect episode, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's completely stuck with the comical nature of this show. And I really think that this one had the best flow and vibes throughout the entire episode. Really, really, really good. So 5.2 out of 6 is my rating for episode 3 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law. So now this is the spoiler warning. So if you have not seen the episode 3 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law, this is the time where you want to press pause, go watch it, and then come back and resume this episode. Because everything I say from here on out is going to be a spoiler in this recap and review. So you have been duly warned. All right, so episode 3, The People versus Emil Blonsky. So Jen Walters was assigned, Jen Walters was assigned the case of Emil Blonsky, and of course, after she accepts it, she gets the bomb dropped on her that she's going to have a tougher time than she realized what was going to be happening, because the video of Blonsky fighting against Wong from Shang-Chi was broken out and leaked to the press, from somebody who knows who, but somebody dimed out Abomination. So this is obviously going to be a bit tougher than Jen thought. And then the question, of course, was, how did he get back into the prison? Well, Blonsky, of course. So, and going and speaking to him, Blonsky, and Tim Roth is just fantastic here as this very cool, calm, and collected subdued, rehabilitated Emil Blonsky. He calmly explains that the current Sorcerer Supreme, Wong, broke him out against his will to participate in said underground fight match, and Wong returned him back to the prison. And that Jen would need to track down Wong to give his explanation on why he did so, and that it really wasn't Blonsky's fault, leaving Blonsky still eligible to be paroled. So we get it now. So we have another cameo, and this I was anticipating that this show would be full of cameos. I'm actually kind of surprised there haven't been more cameos. Jen does a fourth wall break and says, and I quote, "I just want to make sure you don't think this is another one of those cameo every week type of shows." And then to which she goes, "It's not, except Bruce and Blonsky and Wong. And then just remember whose show this actually is," which is very meta, very fun, very self-deprecating, and that, yeah, it's going to be one of those cameo every week shows. And that's part of the fun. Part of the fun of it, yes, this is She-Hulk show. There's going to be other people, shown, mentioned, and that's part of the fun. And I think, and because it's, a lawyer show, it is the perfect way to bring in and introduce people, which I think I've said before, but it's the perfect way to bring in characters that you haven't established before, or people that have not gotten a ton of shine before that you need to reinsert, kind of bring back into the forefront a little bit more if necessary. And I think, and I hope, as the show continues, that it will continue. It will be an avenue for that. It'll introduce maybe some lower level people, or reinforce some lower level, street level heroes that people haven't thought about. It will be great to see, a Charlie Cox's Daredevil appearance. It would be great to see, a Mike Coulter as Luke Cage. I'm not a big fan of Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, but it would be cool to see Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones. I don't want to see Finn Jones. No offense, Finn, nothing personal, but yeah, that was terrible. Iron Fist was terrible. And mainly you were terrible. Nothing personal, dude, but you were terrible. But I would like to see, maybe John Berth. John Bernthal as Punisher would be great for that superhero law firm. To have an episode where do we classify Punisher as a superhero or just as a vigilante, and having them debate that in court and to see if he would really fall under GLK and H's superhero division as far as defending him, or whether they have to use a different attorney. How is the law going to treat someone like Punisher compared to superpowered individuals? It would be really interesting to have that, have a comedic day in court for Frank Castle compared to, the serious things that we saw in the Netflix series, between, Daredevil and obviously the Punisher series. So here we go back to, where we were, before I got on that rant on how much I love and have hope for the show. So we continue in the recap here with a montage of how famous She-Hulk is becoming, which is leading to some backlash, particularly from Jen, that of the She-Hulk name, men mad that a woman has co-opted the Hulk's name. She gets called into a meeting with her boss, what was he? He was her colleague at the DA's office. Dennis has come to GLK&H looking for representation in the superhuman division because he was super catfished. Yes, the boy Neve I think that's his name from the Catfish show. I don't know if Neve would have caught this one, but old Dennis here, and if you don't remember Dennis, he's a super self-centered, narcissistic guy. Kind of has this air where he thinks everybody wants him, and he's really just an average, maybe below average guy. I mean, he's an attorney, so yeah. I mean, I guess that's a pull. He makes good money, but personality such wise, he really thinks a lot higher than himself, and a bit too high of himself. And he got super catfish, and I say super because obviously it involves a super. So he was dating a shape-shifting Asgardian elf who had convinced him that he was dating Meg Thee Stallion. And as the show continued to emphasize Megan Thee Stallion, which when I heard that, I was like, okay, because I knew that Meg Thee Stallion was supposed to make an appearance in the show. Now, personally, I had hoped that Meg Thee Stallion was going to Lou Ferrigno in this show, and she would be the She-Hulk, body, and Tatiana Maslany would be the Jennifer Walters body, and maybe they would, have Jen's face on Meg's, body, whatever. But that's not what happened. We've got, the CGI we have. But Meg did make an appearance in this episode, but not at this juncture. So Jen finds this case very entertaining, and we also get a brief introduction to Mallory Book, who's being played by Renee Elise Goldsberry. I was kind of surprised because Mallory Book, I didn't realize she was supposed to be Mallory Book initially. And that's because, Mallory Book in the comics is a white woman and Renee is not. So Jen is kind of in an awkward place in this meeting. She has to leave because, lo and behold, who comes and shows up and just steps through is Wong. Wong rushedly explains that Blonsky was telling the truth and that Wong forced him to leave so that he could fight, and that he needed a worthy opponent to test out and help him build his Sorcerer Supreme skills, which is a bit odd. Because in Doctor Strange, in No Way Home, we see that Wong became Sorcerer Supreme during the blip. And from my understanding, this show is all post-blip. Yes, yeah. I think they established that this is post-blip because I forget when they established the timeline, but this is a post-blip time frame. So that would have been, a few years ago. And this show makes it look like the fight scene between Wong and Abomination from Shang-Chi was something that would have been pretty recent happening, within maybe not days ago, but maybe it happened, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, but that it was a very recent battle from the timeline of the events of Shang-Chi. So unless the footage was really old, and because obviously if someone breaks out of prison, it really, while they're in prison really doesn't matter when they broke out and went back in. The fact that they escaped would violate, their possibility of getting paroled. So there is a possibility that the footage is maybe a bit older, but I'm pretty sure it is in the same time frame as far as post-blip. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why Wong would need this additional fight experience to prepare for being Sorcerer Supreme. So that's weird. And maybe because even though I'm generally not on a scroll watch all the time, maybe that means that Wong has been replaced by a scroll, and this scroll broke Blonsky out of prison to really just increase his fight skills. That's a possibility. So, continuing, we go back and we see Blonsky here, and we've got who's being represented by Pug from GLK&H. So we're in. They win a motion to not have the trial. I'm sorry. I should have clarified. So we're going back to the shapeshift, the super catfish here. So Pug is a part of the team in that trial, and he wins a motion to not have the trial dismissed. And a very comical scene where the elf and the elf's attorney is doing a good job of petitioning to have this case dismissed, because she's like, how can this guy really believe that he was dating the Megan Thee Stallion, and it's got to be ridiculous. He spent all this money, which I think was like over $100K, out of his free will, and it wasn't a serious relationship. She was providing him with the fantasy, et cetera, et cetera. And after the judge goes to his chambers and is pretty much about to rule in their favor. The elf, I'm sorry, I laughed thinking about it because it was hilarious. So the elf quickly just runs up. People really don't even notice that she slips away and shapeshifts into the judge and impersonates the judge and starts banging the gavel. And the judge is like, "What? What are you doing?" So pretty much that massive courtroom faux pas gets the motion dismissed, and this case will be going to trial. Back into the main trial with Blonsky, we have the parole hearing, which we see the pen pal soulmates of Blonsky, which are various women of various ages, ethnicities, races, who are all dressed in these flowy white dresses and got olive branch crowns, I guess. It reminds me of the olive branches that they used to put on Olympians back in the early days of the Olympics, but they were just some type of leafy, head adornments that these women were wearing, and they are all clearly just obsessed with him, and he's smiling, waving at them as they are in a viewing room. Jen makes her argument, and a compelling argument, about how her client has changed, but unfortunately she is missing her key witness in Wong. And if just when you thought things were going to really, Wong was going to show up and things were going to get big, we had a weird cut, and we go back to the Dennis hearing, which was just weird. Not that I didn't expect it to go back and forth between the two cases. It was just a weird cut, in my opinion. So when we go back to Dennis's case and Pug and them, after they leave court, Pug meets Jen and Nikki for a drink. Jen does another fourth wall break, talking about how pretty much story A and story B are being brought together, which is maybe the cause, which maybe was the cause for the odd cut anyway, to justify that another She-Hulk fourth wall break. during this scene at the bar, Pug realizes the amount of utter disdain that Jen has for Dennis, because, former colleague, obviously she wasn't able to, the conflict of interest, she wasn't really able to try this case directly because of her previous experience with the client. So, but Pug kind of is like, hey, I think you might have exactly, what we need because of her and Nikki's mutual disdain and experience. And they kind of regale Pug on how ridiculous Dennis really is. So when we go back to the parole hearing, Wong eventually does show up, which piques the curiosity of the parole board. And everything seems to be, is going very smoothly, and they looks like they're about to make a decision in favor of Blonsky. When they ask about how much control Blonsky has over the abomination, Blonsky very casually transforms into abomination, which puts everybody but Jen on to super high red alert. Guards rush out. They're pulling guns. The parole board's losing their minds. While Blonsky's talking very calmly, he's like, "Hey, no, it's okay. I'm in control." And then he's not raging. He's like, when he transforms, he's not growling. He's not trying to punch the glass. He just transforms and grows super big and green. And then he had grabbed, and then he transforms back into the Emil Blonsky human form, very similar to Jen's ease in transitioning from Jen into She-Hulk. But unfortunately, this demonstration of control causes things to go out of control, and it looks like the hearing is toast, that everything's not that's not gonna work out. So the idea then is that we've got a duel. So both cases kind of get solved very similarly. So after that, we do go back to the Dennis Bukowski versus the shape-shifting elf case, and Jen is called to the stand by Pug because Pug is like, well, we need to convince the judge that this guy is so self-absorbed that he really truly believed that he was dating Meg Thee Stallion, and that Meg Thee Stallion would really possibly be interested in him. So as Jen is on the stand and giving testimony and such, there we get our cameo appearance of Meg Thee Stallion. She is, for some reason, in the courtroom. When she's mentioned, they show the camera pick to her, and we see Meg, do her famous pose, and there is success for the GLKNH team, and the judge awards Dennis, full damages and etc. As well as Blonsky wins his parole when Jen establishes that he can wear an inhibitor to curb his powers, even though he showed complete control in transferring into Abomination and back into Blonsky. An inhibitor gave the parole board enough confidence that should he transform, it'll be okay. So Jen kind of fourth wall breaks that and says, I should think about that. That's something that might, an inhibitor that might come up again in the future. Maybe I can do something like that. So after the win and the parole, Jen feels she's feeling pretty good about herself. She does an interview to the press to hopefully answer some questions that that the general public may have, and everything's everything's cool in the gang. However, when she gets home, she gets jumped by 4 men with glowing items, and she easily beats them up, and she inquires of them because the items that they're using look like tools. She says, "Hey, did you guys rob an Asgardian like an Asgardian handyman or whatever?" And they're like, "Yeah." So we realize that the items they have are tools that have magic imbued in them, and this is the introduction we get to so if you read the comics, there is a group of they're villains most of the time. They're villains. They're not good guys. I think there have been a couple instances where they have fought on the side of on the side of good, but in general, I don't think they've ever truly been considered heroes ever. They're always either villains or potentially, in the middle. But these guys are great. Now I can't remember their name. Now I'm tripping. I can't believe I don't remember what they're called. But they'll come to me. But so they, and oh my God, it really, like there was a really cool comic book arc involving one of these guys who was black in the books, and they changed his race in the show, which really just takes away a really cool arc for him, because he was like super smart. He was a doctor, like super smart guy, and they were calling him not the Black Tony Stark. What's the Black Tony Stark? Dag. Man, I forget. Anyway, they were, it was essentially, it was a redemption for him. They were like, look, you've been overlooked, for a long time, and because of this, you made some bad decisions, but you can, you can be redeemed. It's the group is called the Wrecking Crew. That's it, the Wrecking Crew, and the Wrecking Crew is comprised of the Wrecker, Bulldozer, Pile Driver, and Thunderball. And Thunderball is the brother. So he's the black one, and it was his arc that I'm thinking of. And it was pretty recent that Thunderball, of this Thunderball arc that was really great. I don't know. I'm not going to keep rambling about it. It's a really cool arc, and I was just disappointed on that, and also that the crew just seems really weird. Because I looked at this crew, and I'm like, well, that dude, he was in the leader, who I'm assuming is playing the wrecker. He was one of the prisoners in season 3 of The Walking Dead, and he just looks so much older than these kids like he's hanging out with. Like, it just doesn't look like these 4 guys would be, friends and hanging out especially to do crimes together. He just looks so much older than they do. So that to me was a little weird. But the Wrecking Crew here is that we get the introduction to the Wrecking Crew in the MCU, and they try to steal her blood. Not only do they attack her, but one of them has a needle, tries to inject her. The needle, of course, bends. It doesn't break her skin, and they are easily dispatched again by Jen as She-Hulk. So that we come to the end of the episode. We do have a mid-credit scene, which is, again, really fun. It's simply Jen signing Meg Thee Stallion to be a client for GLK&H, and to celebrate, they drop it like it's hot. They do a little twerking here and there. Meg and CGI She-Hulk just popping that thing, just pop, just like like the percolator, just doing their thing. Just fun. Just a fun little mid-credit scene. Didn't have to be anything profound. Everyone, so many MCU fans out there are all like, yeah, but credit scenes got to be this or got to be that. Like, it's got to be some like big dramatic reveal. No, sometimes it can be fun. What do you think the whole shawarma scene was supposed to be? That wasn't some big dramatic reveal. It was fun. So this was just fun. Now, I said it a little bit last episode with Dustin. I'm going to say it again. If you, as a viewer of anything MC related, especially watching She-Hulk, if She-Hulk consuming a lot of alcohol is a problem for you and whoever you view this with, and obviously if you've got kids of a certain age, you may not want them to watch a lot of alcohol consumption. You may not want to watch She-Hulk give the finger like she did in episode 1. You may not want to watch She-Hulk twerking with Meg Thee Stallion. And you know what? That is okay. Is that something you don't like or don't want to watch? Cool. You don't have to watch the show. I will say this. If you watch the show and you think that this is insane behavior for Marvel, I'm going to tell you, never, ever pick up a She-Hulk comic book. This is going to be the way I express this. I can't reiterate this enough. Do not read She-Hulk comics, and definitely don't tell your kids to go read She-Hulk comics thinking it's going to be tamer than what you've seen on television. Because I got news for you. It's not. There's a whole She-Hulk naked jump roping. She-Hulk stay naked. She-Hulk is a whole thought. There are many memes of all of She-Hulk's many superhero partners, and that's just the superhero one, not just the regular dudes she gets with. She-Hulk is out there. She's wild. She is very, Deadpool-like as far as just being out there and throwing it out there and not caring. So if you're looking for more family-oriented level of entertainment that your 9-year-old kid can be safe around, She-Hulk content is not that. It's not it. It's not it for you. Even though to me this is pretty mild. As a parent, if I had, if my kids were still 9 years old, I would have to, maybe explain the twerking. Say they're doing a type of dance that that only adults should do. That's not for kids. But y'all, this is tame. do not think it's going to be any better in the comic books, in the source material, because the source material is wild. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. That's the end of what I'm going to say when it comes to this backlash. Oh, Marvel wouldn't do that. Stan Lee wouldn't stand for this. Stan Lee produced a Barbarella comic. Okay, Stan Lee let a lot of, sexually charged things go down in Marvel Comics, okay? Trust me, you do not know Stan Lee the way you think you know Stan Lee, okay? Rest in peace, Stan Lee. All right. I have droned on long enough. So again, that is the recap and review. That was my recap portion. In review, again, this episode was so within the She-Hulk vibes. A lot of fun. They continue with the fourth wall breaks, the cameos, the excellent, even not on the screen for a ton of time, but the excellent portrayal of Blonsky by Tim Roth, and just the very funny and entertaining shape-shifting elf Runa, played by Peg O'Keefe, was just so funny, so well done. The guy who plays Dennis, he really gets you to believe that he's really this, that self-absorbed. He does a great job in portraying his role. I think everything, was great. Benedict Wong is just, he's becoming such a fan favorite in the MCU, obviously appearing in multiple properties. Obviously Doctor Strange, obviously he's appeared in Infinity War, Endgame, Shang-Chi, and now She-Hulk. He's just, and he's excellent. Benedict Wong is an excellent actor, and I'm glad he's getting so much screen time, and he deserves it. The man deserves the flowers. He deserves the shine he's getting, and I hope he continues to get more shine, especially if somehow he's a Skrull or has been replaced by a Skrull, and we get to see some Wong versus Wong action, in the future here. Phase 5, Phase 6 would be pretty dope. I think it'd be pretty dope. Maybe that's just me. But like I said, my rating 5.2. I think it was just really, really good, really, really fun. Jen assimilating and becoming more and more comfortable with not only obviously her paralegal that she brought with her, but with Pug, the introduction of Mallory Book. So that tells me we're going to see more Mallory Book throughout this show. And, Jen just really establishing herself more and more through the offices of GL, K, and H is just really going to continue to grow. And I think in the future, we'll have some more really fun and interesting legal scenes throughout She-Hulk. So that will conclude my recap and review of She-Hulk episode 3. I would love to know, what do you all think? If you are a member of our Facebook community or our Discord, I would love to hear what you think, not only of this episode, but your thoughts of She-Hulk so far. Are you enjoying it, not enjoying it? What's working for you? I know a lot of people, and I don't talk about it. I guess before I close, I'll say this. I know a lot of people in different shows will talk about one glaring thing, and that's the CGI. The CGI is sometimes wonky, and there's various reasons for that. Regardless of what studio does the CGI for this show, it's really, really hard to do the CGI to create a 6'7" super muscled out woman. It's tough. And, Disney has a budget for each episode. They hire a studio to perform the work. They trust that studio is going to use that amount that they pay them diligently and properly to get the best potential product. And if Disney wasn't okay with what they produced, they wouldn't have released it. So is it perfect CGI? Is it the greatest CGI we've ever seen? No. Is it horrible and, the worst thing we've ever seen? No. So I try to avoid really harping or talking about the CGI just because, honestly, for me, it's not that big of a deal because I'm watching a show about a 6'7" giant green woman, and I don't have to worry about super realistic accuracy because it's something that's not realistic. It's a comic book show. And I love comic books. And my suspension of disbelief, my imagination allows me to carry through CGI imperfections. So that is my spiel about CGI. You will not hear me harp on CGI for the rest of these reviews on She-Hulk, because in my personal opinion, it's really not that big of a deal. It's not been egregious. It's not been that bad or even egregiously bad to warrant harping on it. So that is my final word on the CGI in regards to She-Hulk. So, again, I would love to know what your thoughts are. Please share in the Jeek Nation Facebook group, in the Jeek Nation Discord. If you're not a member of either, there are links in the show notes that will take you there. We would love for you to join our group, join our discussion, and join the good time that we have talking all things jock and all things geek. Again, I am the original Jeek, your host, Rockinmrmagic. And I want to thank you for listening. And we could not possibly do this show not without you who continue to support us. So please rate and review the show on your podcasting app of choice. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, CastBox, and many more. And if you can't find us, let us know at jeeknation@gmail.com or message us on Facebook at Jeek Nation. And until next time, peace.
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut. Come on, cut for me.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
This is DJ What, and you're listening to the original Jeek Podcast.